Good evening. Welcome to the American Conservative Values Network, where we strive to promote those things that have made America the greatest nation in the history of humanity, and where we try to promote the values that have been espoused in the great documents of American history, among them being the English and American Bill of Rights, the American Declaration of Independence, and the United States Constitution. I'm Mike Swope, adjunct professor of history and government in the Detroit area, amongst other things. Welcoming you to the show. With me is Pam Devaney from Leone Township, who's active in many things in the Jackson County area, one of which we're going to get to in just a moment. To preface what we're going to be talking about today, as we tape, there was a deadly rampage that occurred in Newtown, Connecticut at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, where 26 students and staff members were fatally shot. This is a developing story as of the time that we tape, and therefore I ask your indulgence, because there's a lot of things that we don't know, and a lot of the things that we thought we know initially are proving to be wrong, and those are issues that we will talk about. So much of what we're going to say or talking about today is in the matter of speculation, and it is also in the matter of trying to analyze a breaking news story. So by the time you see the show, hopefully there will be more solid evidence that you know and can discuss. But this was a horrible tragedy that occurred in one of the worst possible places, Pam. 20 students, I believe.
Babies.
Yes, all of them first graders, as I understand.
Babies.
They were all first graders. There were, I should also point out that there were there were examples of heroism in the story. For example, the shooter had to break into the school because he had to get through a locked door. And the principal saw this person, saw the shooter, and lunged at him to try to prevent him from carrying this out. She lost her life in that attempt. There was a teacher in one room. I believe that her name was Soto, and she had her kids hide in closets, and then she told the shooter when he appeared in her room that she had sent all the kids down to the room. All the kids had stayed quiet for her, and when she told him that she had sent the kids to the room, he shot her dead. But that ruse she traded her life for that of her students. And for that, these individuals should be remembered.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, do they even know what fear is about? I mean, you see children and they go out and do things and they have no fear.
Right.
You know, it's because they're so young. They don't know fear yet, you know.
Right, and when
that's
this was
what they are, they're babies.
Right, and when this was going on, nobody was really sure what was happening. Now to their credit, we're not sure at this point who did it. Someone flipped a PA switch in the office so that the entire school could hear the what was going on in the office.
Good
so
idea.
that the entire school was alerted that there was a bad guy in the building and could take steps to secure their rooms. You know, so we don't know who did that. Whoever did, it's likely one of the dead staff members saved a whole lot of lives just doing that, rather than this madman, and that's in fact what he was.
Right.
Being able to roam the halls with no notice in the halls, and perhaps extracting an even greater toll than what he did. This is it's a heartbreaking story. And it's
imaginable.
It hits close to home for me as a teacher. Because this is this is an issue that has come up more and more as these school shootings become more numerous. And the school shootings are getting into colleges now. There's a Virginia Tech shooting. There was a shooting in 2008 in Northern Illinois. These shootings are not being confined to K-12 schools now. These are getting into college classrooms, and it brings up a number of issues. But one of the issues that I want to lead with, and this kind of hits you in your wheelhouse based on your affiliation with a group, and that is that of course, this issue is now being used by the left to try to call for gun control. But I really think the question that needs to be opened up is about mental health professionals in this country. How much do they know? What is the efficacy of mental health, and what needs to be changed there? Because we already know that this shooter was a severely disturbed individual. We already know that he had received attention all through his life. We know that he was prescribed psychotropic drugs. So this is not a question of what were the signs. This isn't and this is another thing that's developing, which I'll get to, which we'll talk about a little later. But I want to broach the issue now, and that is that it appears that you have, increasingly apparent that we have two types of school shooters. One type of which is a fairly rational school shooting. When you take a look at the definition of school shooting, that these activities are meticulously and logically planned out, and even though what the school shooters are what that class of shooters is doing is reprehensible, these are things that are being carried out in a logical manner. Then you have a second class of school shootings, and this shooter falls into that class. The Northern Illinois shooter falls into that class, and so did Cho at Virginia Tech, where these are people who are mentally disturbed. It's known that they're mentally disturbed, and yet they're out on the street. And so that brings this question into mind. What is happening with the state of the mental health profession, where, number one, these severely disturbed individuals are out on the street and are in general society? And what are the failures of the mental health system and of mental health philosophies in this country that are leading to this? To begin that discussion, why don't you tell the viewers your background, your affiliation with, I believe it's NAMI and NAMI, so that they understand what your perspective is.
Okay. Well, NAMI is a group, and I actually have the flyer, and it's the National Alliance for Mentally Ill. And there's one in Jackson and in Hillsdale, and there's a tremendous amount of folks that go there on it's a meeting. It's a monthly meeting. And it's a support group for people with mental illness. Okay, and so it could be somebody with schizophrenia, somebody with bipolar, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, there's mental illness, okay, and then we kind of move on. Well, you know what? It's time to stop moving on, because 1 in 17 adults, and I have this, these are facts, these came from the national organization. 1 in 17 adults lives with serious mental illness like major depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. Now, this is serious stuff, folks. This is not, these people should never drink. If you know somebody that's bipolar or that is you think might be bipolar, first of all, be an encouragement to get them. Take them to Lifeways. We all pass Lifeways. Let's stop in. Let's just talk to that person. Say,
not all of us pass Lifeways. Remember, Jackson.
We're in Jackson. It's right downtown there.
Yeah. Well, and then it's Lifeways has the building on Northwest Avenue, if I remember correctly.
Yes, 1200.
But remember that we also. This show is viewed throughout southern Michigan.
Okay.
So for communities that are outside of Jackson, you do have some sort of mental health organization in your locality. If you need help, please look up the number of that organization and get that help. And if you know someone who needs the help, get them
Right.
to the help.
Well, I've got the number on my head. It's 517-789-1200.
And that's the number for Lifeways
For
in
Lifeways.
Jackson County.
You can show up there.
So
They will
outside
talk to
Jackson
you.
County, you're, I don't,
Go to
maybe Lifeways
Hillsdale.
number might be able to help you.
You can still
give
go
you a
to
number for
Lifeways.
those, for your community.
The thing is, the number again is 517-789-1200. And what I'd like to do is you can't take back what somebody with a mental illness has done. There are signs, for instance, somebody with a bipolar disorder, there are signs in their late teens. Okay, so if you've got somebody that's 40, or maybe this fellow he was 20, but there are
If the identification's
signs.
been made correctly.
If he's
yeah.
bipolar, I
Right.
really don't know what he is. But the fact of the matter is, it is our responsibility. We see this as a responsibility. If you don't want these kind of things to keep happening, and I'm not saying this as a threat, honestly, I'm not, but folks, we know that if your aunt or your uncle or your cousin or your nephew is talking is antisocial. And antisocial, I mean by when you and I are talking, I keep changing the subject.
Right.
Or I'm trying to drink alcohol and trying to calm myself down. Or I appear to be having a panic attack. Folks,
Or you just don't,
that's a
or
problem.
you just don't circulate, and I think that this is one of the things that is, that is not being asked, is that, in an increasing number of the school shootings, and this is in for both groups that I've talked about. And for regular viewers of this show, they know that I talked about we did a whole show on school shooters in early 2012. In both classes, whether you have the somewhat more rational actors who exercise these rampages logically, or these mentally disturbed, where we already know that these people are mentally disturbed. There's just no question about it. Either way, these are people who, it's increasingly apparent that they are maybe not loners where they hold up totally, but these are people that do not engage with the public on a regular basis, and people who get to these are children who have the opportunity to construct,
And
in
adults.
essence, their own world.
We're talking 40, 50-year-old people too.
Yes, but if they get to that point, but the school shooters so far have been in their mid-20s or lower, with a couple of exceptions.
Right. And some of those folks haven't even got to the point where they have actually got a diagnosis. And I also want to say that not every bipolar, not every schizophrenic person is are out to hurt people. I am very close to somebody that's bipolar. He's on his if he's on his medication, and he's in his therapy, everything's great. If he's not, he is upset with what's going on within him.
That then brings in a critical question.
Okay.
Because every one of those things you said was prefaced with an if.
If he's on medication.
If he's on his medication.
Sure.
If he's getting his therapy. If he's making his
medication,
appointments.
But not once.
That is a critical question.
That's true. But see,
What happens when those things, when those things don't happen?
When they don't happen?
Or if that person chooses not to do those things, what should then be the recourse?
Well, sometimes more than likely it's not a choice.
This is the question that we need to address.
Bring it on. Let's ask it. If more than likely it's not really a choice. It's a bipolar. There's a part of bipolar that says nothing's wrong with you. You don't need that medication.
Right.
So you almost need these NAMI people. Okay. You need your friends and your family, the people that you have alienated because you've been antisocial. You've done these things. Now the person that I know has wanted to hurt himself during these times.
Right.
Never anybody else. because I've pushed the limit. I said, do you want to take off? Do you want to leave? Do you want to hurt anybody? No,
Right.
no. He says, I just want it to stop in the inside. I just want the chaos to stop in the inside. So to think about this, and what this is awareness. Let's become aware of this, that say you're trying to talk to me, or you're trying to talk to me and say, well, what's going on? You could be hearing, it's like Greater Bible Way Baptist, church out here, into a person with bipolar, because you can hear this loudness, you can see the faces, they're moving, but they don't understand what you're saying because they're trying to understand what's going on inside of them, and they can't because it's so out of control.
Right. But the question is that when these afflicted people do not take their medications, when they don't keep their appointments.
Yes, happens all the time.
What then is a recourse for society? Because this is a critical question. And this is what I want to ask folks to do, because there's a talk as we're taping about, well, we need more gun control in this country.
Oh, bullpucky.
And in a previous episode of this show, when we were talking about this issue, we pointed out that this person had over 100 felony counts against him before he committed suicide. What one more law would have stopped him? The question is not gun control. The question, the critical question, the critical debate that I think needs to happen is in mental health, and we really need to open that up because it's an issue that's avoided.
Right.
And part of that is out of political correctness, because, like with some of the things that you're talking about with bipolar issues, Glenn Close paid for a commercial, I believe it was in 2011, because she has a bipolar sister.
Oh, does she? Okay.
And there's one of these, there's a commercial where she was, she had people, who had an afflicted person, they walk around wearing T-shirts, and everybody's walking around that no problem at all. These people are just, these people aren't any threat at all. And we've got to get rid of that now. We've got to get rid of that because, honestly, we don't know for sure. That's the thing we've got to admit. We don't know for sure.
Well, a person that doesn't know that person is not going to know whatsoever.
But when a person with a mental illness who can function under certain parameters, they're taking their medications.
They're taking their medication.
They're going to their therapy. They are. When that person doesn't do that, now society needs to get beyond all the political correctness and not pretend that this isn't, that this issue doesn't exist.
Right.
We need to start asking the question,
right.
What do we do with these people who refuse to take their meds, who listen to those voices,
can't afford their meds, don't have any type of money for their medications, have no transportation to their doctor's appointments.
Let's keep it to just voluntary. Let's keep it to just voluntary. They voluntarily do not do those things.
Okay.
What then is a recourse for society? Because then those afflicted people become dangerous to society. And do we need to start talking again? Because mental health is not a science. Mental health is an art.
Right.
And that's another thing that we've got to admit is that this is not like medicine where you can take a look at a part of the body and you can examine it scientifically. You
take a pill and you fix it and it's
right.
done.
Yeah, this is
exactly.
Exactly. That's another part of this debate. We need to get mental health away from medicine and quit addressing it as though it's a medical issue.
Well, I believe that you have to have a person. I have to believe. Okay, so when you go into Lifeways, and again, I'm saying if you believe you might be bipolar, look up on the internet, bipolar. Read some of those things that are on there. What does it say? Do you act at all like that? Has anybody ever told you you're jumping all around in conversation? Your chest is going like crazy, and you're panic attacking. You're trying to drink. You're doing drugs. You're smoking cigarettes like crazy. You're trying to settle down from the inside and just try to get things under control, and it's not working. What I believe is that is that once you go to Lifeways, you get your diagnosis, you get on your medication, there becomes an accountability. So you want, almost like AA, you have an accountability person.
But Pam, let me ask the question that nobody else will dare to ask, and this is the question that needs to be asked in this circumstance. When that person will not be accountable, do they need to be confined in a controlled atmosphere?
Let me get the question right. When they don't want to be confined.
When they do not want to be accountable, when they do not want to take their medications, when they do not want to, when they do not want to keep their appointments, when they want to live in their self-constructed world, is that a point where that person needs to have some sort of confinement and some sort of involuntary supervision?
I think that's a last result. I think it's absolutely a last result because
is it a last resort, or do we need to move it up now?
I think we definitely need to kick things up a notch.
I think we need to have that discussion about moving that up from a last resort.
I don't think you throw them in jail. I don't.
No.
Because you don't get anywhere in jail. You get medication.
And that is really the last resort that's happening now, is that our penal institutions are becoming the mental health institutes of last resort.
20% of our 44,000 inmates right now have severe mental illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself, if you want to talk about monetary aspects, that's huge, because each one of those folks is $56,000 per person on up. If you take medication, that goes even farther.
Yep.
My thought process is this. The Lifeways, you go into Lifeways, you get a diagnosis, you get your medication, and you actually get a treatment program. And I believe that treatment program should be more than 5 minutes with a doctor, than 5 minutes with a doctor, and the doctor says, I'm going to see you in 2 days. And the doctor is going to say, how are you feeling? What's going on in your life? And if that person says that's the opportunity right then for that person to say, well, I don't have a place to live, or I've alienated my family so much by my bipolar. I have no money. I don't have any money for my medication.
But now here's another critical question.
To me, that's a hard stop. We need to do something right there.
Again, this is something that
I think it happens
that other people will not dare to ask. But, and regular viewers of the show know what I'm talking about. There's an absolutionist culture among mental health professionals. Sometimes it's called the therapeutic culture. I think it's more accurately described as the absolutionist culture. And that absolutionist culture holds that nothing is ever your fault. Everything is always externally caused. What can we do to get that change in the mental health profession? Because I think in order to address the faults of the mental health system, that is one of the things that's got to go first. We've got to get rid of the absolutionist culture and get mental health professionals to look inside people to see what's wrong with them. Not say, you're this way because you didn't get enough attention from your mommy, or you didn't get the toy you wanted at Christmas when you were 5 years old. No, you're screwed up, and let's get to you.
Yeah, I get that. But those are triggers. And so to understand bipolar, your mommy did something and she ran away from the family or what have you when the child was 4, so that's a trigger. At Christmas time, so at Christmas time, trigger comes up, mom calls for Christmas, trigger, the bipolar person starts going into they start mood swinging.
Right, but with bipolar,
they need to be calling their person.
With bipolar disorder, and that actually is there actually is a medical element to that, because there are imbalances in the brain.
It's a brain disorder, yes.
But what happens when you have someone who has a behavioral problem, where it's not a medical problem at all? You just got someone who's just who's just a miserable person.
That's a whole different
ballgame. And that's a whole different ballgame.
Yes.
And that's really where the mental health profession is failing people, is with the absolutionist culture. These people have problems with behavior, and yet mental health professionals are saying, oh well, it's really not your fault. there's really nothing wrong with you.
Well, see, now this person that's bipolar, if he has a bipolar, he's had 2 to 3 bipolar episodes, major depressive episodes,
right,
since every single year since he was a late teen. Now that's not, you talk about behavior. Yeah, the behavior, but then again, he did this because of the bipolar episode.
Yeah, but see, he's
not kind of like the jerky guy that just wants to be a pain in everybody's butt.
People who suffer with bipolar disorder, there is a medical problem wrong with them. But this gets us back to something that I was talking about earlier in the show, about where it seems that we now have 2 different classes of school shooters. We have the one class of school shooter who is, where they are mentally disturbed. And it's very clear, it's very well known. But then you have, and in that case, that'd be a problem, that'd be a case where, for example, where, someone who has a bipolar disorder or something similar, and apparently that's what the Connecticut school shooter
I don't know what he has at all.
Yeah,
I have no idea what he
again,
has.
a reminder for our audience, we're taping roughly 56 hours after the events, and this is still a breaking news story. So, and there were some, matter of fact, there were some critical things that Pam didn't know when we walked into tape today until I said them.
Like mentally ill? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But but we're seeing that, that at least I'm seeing that there are 2 different classes, and so that you have a class of school shooter who is mentally disturbed and who does have some sort of problem with their brain.
Exactly.
But then you have the other class of school shooter, which is the class of school shooter that I talked about on this show back, I believe, is in March of 2012, where it's a behavioral problem.
Right.
For example, the Columbine shooters. There was, they've been sent to therapy, but really the root cause of the problem there was behavior. That these were indulged, indulged young men who've been allowed to establish their own worldview.
Yeah, well,
the Jonesboro, Arkansas shooter is another case of that.
And I'm ready to slam the parents there for that too.
Yeah,
we're going to throw them in there in that little. Well, back to the person that I know that's bipolar. I can look at that. I can look at that man, and I think that's why you have to have a support group and a support person. I can look at him and I can look at his eyes and I can tell, and I can ask him, is there, did you take your medicine today? And he'll say yes. Are you having any dark thoughts? Now that's the thing is that folks, and I'm really kind of getting really real here. When you go into Lifeways, tell them you're having dark thoughts. Go into the emergency. Don't take these people. Don't call the cops. Take them to the emergency. Get them in there. So a loving person that's a support person will be able to care for that person, take them out of that stressful situation. And so not every bipolar person could be a shooter, honestly.
Right.
So there are some success stories that they can get through and get past that.
But we've got critical questions with the mental health profession. These are questions that need to be asked. They're not being asked in national media. It's time, folks, that we all started looking at these problems. And again, want to address one other thing. And of course, this issue is going to be used by the left as cause for gun control.
Right.
And as we said in our previous episode, the shooter in Connecticut would have had over 100 felony counts against him. The advocates of gun control, what one more law would have made that nutcase obey?
Right.
Correct. What one more law would have done that? You're not going to be able to answer that question. Agree. Again, as a reminder, everything that we've talked about, we're talking about a breaking news story. Some of these things, I'm sure that that some of what we think are facts now may be subject to change, but we're doing the best that we can with a breaking news story. So please bear that in mind. But we're trying to do our best, to serve our viewing audience, and I hope that this will start the debate that needs to happen. It's not over gun control, but over mental health issues. But for all of us here at the American Conservative Values Network, I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas, a prosperous and happy New Year. I want all of you to stay involved, keep working to do the right things in the conservative arena. For our executive producer, Bishop Ira Combs, for our director, for our cameraman, for Pam Devaney, for all of us who roam through this studio on a regular basis, I'm Mike Swope, wishing you the happiest of holidays and sending all of our appreciation for all of you joining us in 2012. Please come back in 2013 for more engaging, intellectual, conservative discussion as we try to set the world right, one little corner at a time.
Exactly.
Good night, folks.
Thank you.